Okay, if you remember yesterday, yesterday was a bit of a confusing day, but okay. Yesterday we learned about what this thing about Korach and what it means to us. What it means to us. So the difference between the word Korach and next week's Torah portion is Chukat. Chukat is talking about the laws of the Torah, which are so high and so good that we can't understand them. It's called Chukat. But also all the laws of the Torah, which are how that aspect of the laws of the Torah that's united with us. Again, we have to keep remembering that the Torah and the commandments are not just something that was given a long time ago, but they're being given right now to each and every one of us. They're eternal. And also we have to remember that the Torah and the commandments are given by the God who's creating us. So it's not by some sort of a spiritual, celestial, religious, Jewish power. That's also true, but that's not the end of it. The commandments are being given by our Creator, who's creating us right now. So it's the words of the commandments are interwoven, you want to use a term like that, with reality, with existence. There is no existence, reality, without Torah and the commandments. And there's no Torah and commandments without reality. Torah and commandments are, but all these things, Torah and commandments and reality and us, they all come from the essence of God. God wants, the world is not an accident. The world is intentional, and it's intentionally happening all the time. Time itself is a creation. Oh. So the Rebbe said to get these ideas into our day-to-day life, that's what Korach did not want. Korach did not want these high ideas and spiritual ideas, religious ideas, whatever it is, should be totally user-friendly. They should go out of the category of being religion and high and etc. I mean, they should still be high, but they should be relevant to us, meaningful as money. It says that it's a commandment in God it's a commandment in the Torah for the Jews to love God. It's the motto of Judaism, in fact, to love God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and all of your might. And one of the meanings of all of your might means with all of your money, because people love money. People are not aware how much they love money. How much money makes you jump, right? Oh, he took $10 too much, overcharged me, right? Oh, your good news, you just won $10,000. Wow, $10,000, crying. Right? Somebody gives him $10,000 out of his mind. His emotions all come pouring out, gushing out with love and excitement. And he's all of a sudden he gets afraid. I hope nobody knows it, right? Nobody knows I have this money. They're going to come and take it from me, my relatives. And then all of a sudden the person becomes totally money. Money suddenly becomes real, and people are surprised about how much they're connected to money. Even in the Torah, it says you have to beware for bribery. There, it's talking about any type of bribery, even flattery and things, but essentially money. It says because bribery blinds the eyes of the wise and twists the heart of the righteous. The words twist the words of the righteous. Anyway, the matter. The Torah says the man is wise and he gives lectures on honesty and he can bring all the sources from the Torah, but you slip a couple of zeros into his bank account and all of a sudden he thinks differently and his heart is different. That's if a person is not connected to what you really should be loving and what really should make a difference to you. But Korach didn't care. Korach's thing was, God is God, the world is the world. And then he says the difference between chukat. Chukat means laws that are carved out. That's godliness in the world, how the world is harmonious with God. And Korach, same letters. Both of them have kuf. Both of them have the letter chet. But Korach has a resh and Chukar has a tuf. And the shape of a resh is that there's no third foot. Remember we learned that yesterday. There's no third foot. And the third foot, that corresponds to action. The top is, give me my pointer over here. 1 second. 1 minute. 1 minute. Here we go. Oh. Am I recording? Yeah. Okay. So Korach didn't want it to come down into the world. That's the third leg of the tuf. He didn't have that. Korach had a resh instead. Korach wanted to leave everything in heaven. Leave everything in heaven. According to this, we have to understand something about the miracle of Joshua, that the sun stood still in Gimmel. What happened over there? Kavanat Nes, the intention of the miracle was, so again, this is pointing at what the Rebbe wanted to say. Nature, is nature worthwhile to God, or do we have to just leave nature totally? Can nature become holy, or is nature by itself not God? Nature is nature. That's our reality, and God is also real. That's what it means. Korach means to divide. Korach wanted to say that God is not found in this world. He's not in this world. God, after you die, that was Korach. And what does that mean? It means that forget about going to heaven and forget about all this stuff, right? And forget about serving God. Forget about this. It's just too far away. You just do what you're supposed to do in the world. You want to choose, right? It says in the Torah, don't do sins. So don't do sins, of course, right? But what's the reason? In the afterworld. The afterworld. God knows what you did. God knows what you did. But as far as the thing of Korach was not to believe in the Torah, believe in the commandments, but they were not to have love, not to be emotionally connected to God. That's Korach's big thing. That's Korach's big thing. God is reality, cold, spiritual, source of everything, right? And he created the world a long time ago. And if he does create it now, it's completely concealed, which is the fact. That's what we see. And Aaron and Moshe said, that's the way it is, but that's not the way it's supposed to remain. It's supposed to be that we're in the world in order to appreciate God, to love God, to reveal God in the world. And Korach said, leave that up to God. It's not our business. You leave it up to God. God will do it. The time will come, Messiah will come, they'll fix everything up. Meanwhile, don't jump the gun. Don't try to push this agenda of revealing God in the world. God has his times. He'll do it when he wants. And Moses and Aaron said, no, that's the way we were created. That's why we're here. Moses and Aaron, we're here to make God revealed in the world now. That will facilitate the coming of the Moshiach and make the world prepared. But it's not going to happen. I mean, it'll happen on its own also, but we can make it faster. And Korach said, okay, make it faster, but not with the Jewish people. You know, the Jewish people are not with you, right? Jewish people already said, yeah, we want Korach. We want Korach, right? We don't need Moses, right? Okay, Alpia now, according to this, now we can also understand the miracle that God stopped the sun in Givon. Hakavana, then they said the intention was not to go out of nature, not to make something happen that would just knock everybody out. Ella, but ke barov inyanim, like in general, the miracle helped the victory. The miracle aided Joshua. The miracle did not defeat Joshua's enemies. It didn't do the job that Joshua was supposed to do. And there's like Korach. What would Korach say? Korach would say, let God take care of it. And what happened when the sun stood still? God took care of it, right? He stood the sun still, and he shot down bolts of lightning, and he killed all of the enemy, and that's it, finished. Joshua didn't have to do anything, right? Wrong. That's not what happened. God made the sun stand still. He said, okay, Joshua, you carry on. This is a miracle, but it happened in nature. In nature, nature itself suddenly became important and holy. The opposite of what Korach wanted. Korach wanted that nature should be nature, And godliness is godliness. We believe in God, but it's just too infinitely far away. So what was the miracle of the sun standing still? The sun stood still, but it wasn't God doing everything. God said, I'm helping you. I want to be your partner. I'll stop the sun, but you have to keep fighting. I feel even in this war. Hashem nilcham. It says that God, it says in the Torah that God battled for the Jews. What does it mean God fought for the Jews? It had to be in nature. That's why it's a big mistake. Like in Israel, there are some religious Jews that they say that we don't need an army. We don't need an army. It's a sign of that we don't trust God. It's a sign of apostasy. We don't need an army. Well, I mean, first of all, there was never such a thing in the history of the world. So Joshua was definitely a religious Jew, and he fought battles. And so it was in the time of Mordechai that they fought against their enemies. I mean, these were religious Jews. So, and even if it wasn't so, the fact of the matter is that God could, yes, he can do it all on his own. Definitely can do it all on his own, but he doesn't want to. God wants us to be his partners. Therefore, Loya Nes, the miracle of the sun standing still, was not a miracle that totally negated the necessity to make a war naturally by Joshua. Ela Nes, it was a miracle. It was a miracle that helped. It was a preparation, and it was a, how do you say, a fixing, a preparation, and what's another word for preparation? And what is it? Preparing. Okay, the same. I'll think of the word for victory. It was just a preparation and an instrument toward the victory, not the miracle that the sun stood still. But this did not make the victory. After the day stood still, Joshua and the Jewish people had to run after, pursue, and to war with their enemies in a way that's natural. According to this, maybe it's even more logical to say that the miracle itself of the sun standing still was in a way that was connected to the nature of the sun. The nature of the sun changed. Ofi Asheni, the second way. And it wasn't just a temporary miracle. And as soon as Hashem removed the miracle, then everything went back to normal. Right? It's not so. And like making a dam to stop the water. And once you remove the dam, then the water comes. Or maybe it's not so. Maybe you put the dam there, and even in order to make the water, and even if you would remove the dam, the water would still stand up. And there had to be a second miracle, the second miracle that God changed everything back to its regular. It says, the sun stood, Zeratzar, that not only did the sun and the moon stop, all of the stars, all of the laws of astronomy, all stopped. The whole entire universe changed. Everything stopped. Anything that's even connected in any remote way to the going of the movement of the sun, which I think means everything, is all stopped. The Yom took this up, according to the Chassidut, explains even more. That Amirid, when Joshua said, Shemesh begivon dome, may the sun in Givon stand still, and the moon in the Emek Ayalon, and the moon in the valley of Ayalon. She'al yadei atzirut, by means of stopping the movement of the sun and the moon. And by the way, why are the sun and the moon moving at all? They are moving because they are bowing down to God. What do you say about that? The sun and the moon are bowing down to God. Just like the Jewish people, we pray. I don't know if you know this. The Jewish people, when they pray, they always face the place where the Holy Temple was. If you're outside of Jerusalem, in Jerusalem. If you're inside of Jerusalem, then if you're on the back side of the Holy Temple, then you pray that direction. If you're on the front side, you pray that direction. Why? Because the Holy Temple was like the plug. That was where godliness came into the world. And that still is there. The same thing, the angels, they bow down to the planets. The angels for sure. The planets are bowing down to their source. Shazel, that's by means of the going of the, I'm saying, that's what happened when the sun stood still and the moon stood still. What does it mean? It stopped bowing down to God. It stopped saying a song. It says it sings a song. Songs of praise to God. What's the big deal about stopping the praise? Because the non-Jews, the enemies of Israel, they receive their power through the sun, stars, and the constellations. Their power comes through the sun, the stars, and the constellations seemingly have free will. Seemingly, they have free will. And this fact that, in fact, they don't have free will, that the influence, that's why they worship the sun. The non-Jews, they're not fools. They worship the sun because the sun gives them life. But the fact is it doesn't really give them life. It just brings them life. It passes it through that God is giving to them. But it seems that it has its own nature, that you should bow down to the sun. Why not? Right? If you want the electricity in your town or whatever, the sewers don't work, so you go to the mayor. You don't go to the president of the United States, right? You go to the same thing here. The moon and the sun, that's like the mayor. You don't have to go to the president all the time. Well, by Judaism, it doesn't work that way. Judaism says, yes, you're right. It seems that the stars and the planets and the angels do have an effect. And if you pray to these different things in India, right, they have all these different gods that they pray to, and it must work because they keep doing it, right? People don't say, hey, I've been praying to this God for 50 years. Nothing happens. It must have some sort of a benefit. There's a benefit. They don't, it's not like the Jews that we believe in God, even if God makes the Holocaust and he makes destruction, he makes this, never we still believe in him, right? Because Jews in their essence are, how do you want to call it? They're crazy, like Abraham. They're willing to go against the whole world. But the non-Jews, they have more sense here. The sun is giving us light, it's giving us spiritual life. So why not worship the sun? Right? So they got a good point. So Joshua, by stopping the sun, he stopped the flow also to his enemies. Joshua wanted to negate, to stop the flow of success and blessing to the Gentiles that were attacking him, which that's basically everybody. We can see now the whole United Nations is against the Jews. Never been any different. It's always been the same. Always been the same. When we're victorious in a war, then it stops for a while. But Imam, that these non-Jews that Joshua was fighting with them, then Sha'ovdim et Hashemesh, that they worship the sun and the moon and the stars and the constellations. And by means of this, Nifal Gam, this brought also the victory in the war by weakening the power of our enemies. But Alpiz, according to this, it's more logical to say that by means of Shemesh Begivon Dome, that the sun in Givon was silent, that it stopped not only the orbit of the sun and the moon, but it stopped all of the stars and the planets and the constellations. In other words, all of nature stopped in order to facilitate the victory of Joshua. But Joshua had to fight. Joshua had to fight. So if so, what happened? The whole world actually stopped, which means that the fact is that the orbit of the sun and the moon and all the stars and other things, that's really a miracle now. And God just canceled that. We just got used to it, so it doesn't seem to be a miracle. But the fact that the sun comes up in the morning is a big miracle. It was a miracle that was renewed when Joshua won his battle, and it wasn't necessary for them to stop anymore. Al derech zeh, we can also say the same thing with the miracle of Gimmel Tammuz in 1927. What happened? Together with this, that the miracle of the third day of Tammuz was a miracle which is above nature. There was the hashpa b'teva gufa, shehu, which is hiskim nes, that the nature participated in the miracle, just like with Joshua. Nature participated in the miracle. Now, just to remind us just to make a reset over here a little bit, it's very difficult for us to maybe nowadays in Iran, it's something like that. But even then, it's not. Communist Russia, like Iran, now they just killed like 30,000 people and 40,000 people because they dared to protest in the streets. But the fact is, in Iran, there were people protesting in the streets, and they let them know that there was a lot of people that opposed. In communist Russia, there was no such thing. There was no such thing as protesting in the streets. You didn't even protest in your home. Like it says, the walls had ears. 1/3 of the Russian population were spies. Everyone spied on everybody else. Everyone spied on their neighbors. And if you gave somebody over, you got a big reward. There was no checks. The person said, no, I didn't do it. Right? It was pointless. They would take a person and arrest him, and they would give him a trial for a couple minutes, and then they would bring him to his room. On the way to the room, they would shoot him in the back of the head. But it was just that death was like, like maybe less than brushing your teeth in the morning. It was just part of life. Just killing. Stalin, they say he killed 50 million of his own people. I saw other places that say that's a big exaggeration, that we shouldn't say bad things about Stalin. He only killed 20 million people. It was not 50 million people, right? It's a dirty lie. It was only 20 million people he killed. They were killing people. They don't even know how many people they killed. They killed so many, millions and millions and millions of people they killed. No one opened their mouth against Stalin. There was one Chassid over here. He passed away. He said, in Russia, and Chabad came from Russia, right? In Russia, you were afraid to think against Stalin. You were afraid to think against Stalin. Stalin knew what you were thinking. Stalin took people from their homes and he had them killed, and everybody knew that Stalin was right. Stalin was right. If he killed somebody, it must be he was thinking against, or he was going to plan. He was going to think. Okay. And here the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he not only thought against Stalin, and he not only spoke, but he also did. When he taught the Torah, and he sent his followers around, and a lot of them were killed. A lot of them were put into prison. He sent his followers around to establish yeshivas, places of learning, which, what does a yeshiva mean? There couldn't be any more than 5 boys, and it had to be in a basement somewhere with no windows, so nobody would know it. But they did it. They did it in order to learn Torah. What type of a reward did they get? Absolutely no, right? There's not, you learn Torah like that, you're going to go to heaven. All the Jews were going to go to heaven. What's the question? They were all under duress. Everyone was under duress. No one can be punished in Russia for not learning Torah, for doing mitzvahs. So there he was, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he was standing, and his biggest enemies were Jews, that they knew all the tricks of Judaism, and they knew all the ways of Judaism, and there were spies everywhere in Chabad themselves, right? There were spies. It was impossible. There was no, and the Rebbe was the source of all this. He was the head. He was supposed to have been killed immediately when he was brought into prison, when he was arrested. And there was some sort of a weird mix-up that he wasn't killed the first night, and then they couldn't get the orders to kill him the next day. And by the time they got everything arranged, then there started pressure from outside of Russia, and Stalin listened to the pressure. I mean, Stalin could have said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we made a big mistake. We arrested the wrong man. We didn't intend to," right? One of the policemen, a bullet just came from his gun accidentally. They could have said a million things. Right? He refused to eat. And what can we do? We wanted to feed him. He refused to eat, and he died from hunger. They had a million excuses that he could have made. One of the other prisoners killed him. It was an accident, right? It was a big problem for them. And nevertheless, they didn't kill him, and he survived. And he defied them. All the previous Rebbe defied them every single step. He did not in any way, how do you say, try to appease them or to flatter them. He wasn't afraid of them. He didn't stand up when they told him to stand up, and they beat him, and they refused to sign when they told him to sign. And then he was totally released. That's like really out of it. It's really out of it. Okay, so what type of a miracle was that? Was it just a miracle that happened to one particular person and it was a one-time thing? Or maybe nature itself changed, especially when it was a miracle that was in nature. Something like, this is like the miracle of the Aaron's staff grew buds and fruit. The whole natural process was in the staff. You do it like it's known that those people that arrested and imprisoned the previous Rebbe, Haim Gufa, they themselves had to free him. They had to even help him to get out. The Rebbe, when they the Rebbe was in a city called Kostromar, and there came the commandment. There started world pressure was on Stalin. Stalin wanted the world to think he was a nice guy. So he sent a messenger, special messenger, to tell the Rebbe that he was free, to let the Rebbe, but the offices in Kostromar were closed on the 12th day of Tammuz, and they opened up the next day. So they sent a special messenger to apologize that they kept him one extra day. And he was supposed to be revealed the day before. They apologized to him. So therefore we see that they helped him. They actually, those same people that wanted to kill him, they had to help him get out. Shaloch, and therefore it wasn't just therefore the miracle did not come at one time. The Rebbe just got out and that's it. First of all, they took him out from prison and they sent him to exile. And then he got the freedom. That was the 12th day. But then he actually really got the papers, the offices open on the 13th day. And then he had to be in Russia for an amount of time, a few months, until finally he was evicted totally. That they are, according to their nature, yagiu lahakara shetzarichim l'shachro, that the Stalin himself, for him to kill people was nothing. He not only did not kill, God forbid, the Rebbe, but he helped free him. First of all, number one was they sentenced him to death, and they changed it to 10 years in prison, and then they changed that to 3 years in exile, 10 years in exile, then 3 years in exile, on until that he got freed totally. So it was a gradual process that happened. But even afterwards, the Rebbe still remained in Russia for a certain amount of time, including especially generally because of the opposition to Judaism. Therefore, Nimshacha, therefore he was not, I'm sorry, that's right. Therefore, there was drawn down the complete redemption of all of the Jewish people in Russia a long time. When did they actually, communism fall? 1991. And here the Rebbe is getting out of prison. This is like in the end of 27. Ad Shem Atzmon, b'meshech hashanim, in the course of time, Yagiu sof that they could recognize, and they began to permit the Jewish people, the Jewish people can act Jewish in every way of Judaism. Right now in Russia, there's Chabad houses all over the place. Right? Putin even encourages it. He didn't have to do a thing like that. Encourage Chabad houses. He could have just said the Jews are free to leave, they're free to come, whatever they want to. To encourage Judaism, and also to permit Jews to leave the country, and even to help them to leave. Kol El Gam, but how long did it take? It was a long process, right? From 1927 until 1991, it's a long process, but it began when the previous Rebbe got out of Russia, or got out of prison, I'm sorry. There was a long time. First of all, there was the whole the Shaklavataria, the going back and forth, and the well of will, the desire of many people in the country was to now says the Rebbe even more the name of the country, of the city, which is Leningrad, now that in it the Rebbe was imprisoned. Shem Natnulo. This is the name that was given by the communists, Leningrad, because they worshipped Lenin was so important. I mean, Lenin, the fact is, Lenin was no less of a murderer than Stalin. He just wasn't as successful. Al Shem Minagim, on the name of the great leader, Lenin. And now they've changed it. They've erased the name, and now it's called Peterburg. The name of the city in the time of the imprisonment and the redemption of the first Rebbe of Chabad. But that is a name, Shetzarar called, that's the name of the Tsar of Russia called in the time when the city was built. Shemetzeg, it's the opposite of communism. I think that it's called Peterburg, not because of Peter the Great. It was because of the founder of Christianity was Peter. It was called Saint Peterburg, right? That's right. But nevertheless, even though that religion is very far from Judaism, but it's even further from communism, right? It's even further from communism. So they changed the name back to a religious name. Hagam, even though Sha'af Tachat Hashilton Tsar, even though the fact is, even under the rulership of the Tsar, they also hated Judaism. They were also opposition to Jude, but it has no comparison to what happened when the previous Rebbe was imprisoned by the communists. I mean, their hatred for Judaism was just taking people out and killing them. There was no, right? And the Tsar, he just opposed it on ideological terms. They made and eventually came to, they made the cantonists, they tried to induct the Jewish children into the army and to change but they wanted to convert them to their religion, the Tsar. And communists wanted to kill them. They wanted to simply kill all the religious Jews. I mean, they killed all the religious Christians also, they killed them. Except for those that played along. The Yesh Lomar, we can say, that the Shachla Bataria, that in this whole, the will and the argument of the will, that they brought the city back from Leningrad to Peterburg, we can see clearly that what the previous Rebbe did by getting out of prison, it wasn't just a one-time miracle. It was a miracle that continued from Yud Beit Yud Gimmel Tammuz, 1927, and it continued. It opened up a door, a miraculous door that God never closed. Till the point where even the name of the city, Leningrad, was changed to Peterburg, which indicates that there is God and that we should pray. And that eventually brought the general redemption, freedom of all of the Jewish people from all of their opposition, and especially in that country, in Russia. So the Russians, they were notorious. They really hated the Jews, the Russians. But somehow or other, they got along with the Jews. Occasionally, it's not like the Ukrainians, right? The Ukrainians, they were just murderers, organized murderers. The Khmelnytsky, they really helped the Germans. The Ukrainians helped the Germans. The Russians fought against the Ukrainians. So we see that the effect of the previous Rebbe was freedom. Freedom. He became free from physical prison, but also from the spiritual prison, which is imprisoning all of the Jewish people in Russia. He freed them from that also. And not only that, he freed the Russian people also, because by them, religion was boganit. There was no such thing as God. Forget it. As soon as communism fell, so they said, hey, maybe God does exist, right? And so as far as they could understand, God means their religion. Which changing it from Leningrad to Peterburg is a wonderful change. It's a beautiful, positive change, and certainly in the right direction. And it's a miracle. It's a miracle. Said the Rebbe, that miracle was begun by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe changing nature. That's the whole point. That not just a miracle happened to one particular person, a nature changed. That the opposition to Judaism in the Judaism, Torah and commandments in the whole world became less and less. And we see, listen, the fact is today, there's no place in the world where a Jew can't do Torah and the commandments, even in Iran. There's no place in the world where it's forbidden for a Jew to do Torah and commandments. And even though that the anti-Semitism is everywhere and they're talking to the Jews, but nevertheless, a Jew wants to do Torah and commandments, no one's going to stop him. No one's going to stop. You can walk through the streets of, where is it, the University of Columbia, whatever, with tefillin on your head, right? Maybe some maniac is going to say something to you. But as far as you're doing commandments, I mean, maybe I can also say in a parenthetical way that the anti-Semitism today, even though it's ubiquitous, I mean, it's everywhere and it's every place and it's in the media, and these famous people are standing up and saying, yes, I am against the Israelis and the Jews in general, and anybody who likes the Israel, the Jews and the Jews and the Jews and the Jews are causing everything. The Jews and the Jews, it's anti-Semitism. There's never been such a thing, but it's nowhere near as violent as it was in Germany, for instance, Kristallnacht. And the anti-Semitism now is more, do you want to call it verbal, idealistic? Thank God. Thank God it's so. But it's like open game on the Jews to talk against them, to think against them, to feel. But to do, nobody wants to do anything against the Jews. Nobody, first of all, the Jews will fight back, but that's one thing. But just in general, there's not the same organized blood lust as there was by the communists or by the Ukrainians or by the Germans, but not. So we see that the anti-Semitism now is something like what happened in the time of the previous Rebbe, is waking up the Jews. You're a Jew. You're a Jew. What does it mean to be a Jew? I don't know. Why do they hate you? Because you're a Jew. What is a Jew? I don't know. What exactly? I don't know what it is. No, maybe find out what it is. It must be something really important if so many people hate you. Hate is a very definite. People don't hate mosquitoes, right? They don't hate corona. They don't hate it. It's much more dangerous, right? The people who made the WHO that invented this whole thing, the corona, nobody hates them. Nobody hates the United Nations, right? They're totally evil. Nobody hates them. All the bad things they're doing, but they do hate the Jews. Why do they hate the Jews? I don't know. Just hate them. Right? They're making a genocide. Genocide. Who's the genus exactly that they're citing? Who are they killing? Who are they? Palestinians. There's no such thing as Palestinians. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as 20 years ago, 30 years ago, they didn't have a flag. They didn't have nothing. Today also they have nothing. What are they hating them for? Right? There's Jews, I don't know. I don't know, but the Jews got to hate the Jews. Right? So maybe Jews are starting to wake up. What is there inside of me that makes everybody so emotional? It's so real. And then the Jew wakes up. It's God. We're the sons of God, it says in the Bible. We're chosen by God, it says in the Torah. Torah's not concealed. Go to any bookstore, buy a Bible. There it is. And we're chosen by God. If you want to see what sentence it is, I'll tell you what sentence it is. We are chosen by God. How? Deuteronomy 14:2. Look over there. Deuteronomy 14:2. We're chosen by God. Everybody can read it. We're God's sons. It says Exodus 4:22. We're the sons of God. Read it. What does that mean? Learn Chassidut and try to find out. Have a good day with Moshiach. Oh, and let's have a story.